So Gmail has a number of different ways that you can choose to lay out their inbox, and the options to get to that are actually pretty simple now with the settings panel. So let's take a look at how you can change the look of your inbox. This will help you get organized and find the things that you need. At the moment, if I go up to the little gear here in the corner and I come down, there is a see all settings option where you can get into all kinds of other stuff. And right now I'm on the new Gmail view, which is why things are kind of big and bulky, and I've got this panel over at the side here. I have zoomed in a little bit so you can see it better as well, but I'm on that new view and I'll leave it there because we're going to end up forced onto it sooner or later anyway. Here, this little apps in Gmail section I can ignore right now. All it's really doing is giving me the option to add or remove Meet here from the side. I'll leave that alone. There's a density option that I can adjust, which just takes this stuff that I'm seeing here and tightens it up right now. So with the default option, there's a fair bit of sort of empty space, I guess, between the different rows here. And I can actually see little attachments right there on the main screen. So if I click that, I can actually view the attachment without ever opening the email. Comfortable, we'll tighten that up a little bit and take away those attachment options. And compact tightens it up further. And now I can see a lot more messages on screen, even in this zoomed in version. But I'll leave it on default for a moment. I'm on the basic theme at the moment, so it's just a plain boring background. I can click other choices here and get a bit more color in the background to separate things. So I'll leave that on for now. And then inbox type, that's what we're really looking at here. The default option adds these tabs across the top. And right now I've got primary, which is most mail coming directly to me, promotions, which is going to be marketing and social networking type stuff, also social for more of the social network posts, Facebook and Twitter and that sort of thing. And then updates, which are those auto-generated messages from like Google Drive when a document gets shared with you or something. I've turned off one of them though. If I click on customize here, I can actually decide which of these tabs I want, and it'll even show me as I hover each of them examples of the kinds of messages that will end up in there. Now I've gone ahead and turned off forums because the forums for us as staff anyway is where you're going to see a bunch of the messages coming from your Google Groups. So when a principal or supervisor sends a message to all their staff in a building, that ends up going to Google Groups and shows up under the Forums tab. But by unchecking that, it means that stuff's all going to land into primary, and I'm not going to miss it. I'm not taking any chances that way. So I say save, and I can leave it like that. That would be my default view if I was sticking with default. The next one here is important first. So what it's referring to is those little yellow arrows that you see. And if I click that right now, I now get this section that says important, and you'll see all those tabs have disappeared now. There's no category groupings at the top anymore. With this one, I get all the messages that Google has deemed important based on who's sending them, if it's directly to me and not a whole group, if I frequently email this person back. That kind of interaction is what they're going to use to dictate the algorithm for these important emails. Now I can come down and say, you know what, that's not important, and I can click on it and turn that off on that particular message. And I can come down to the everything else section at the bottom, and I can decide, well, actually, this is important. So I'm going to click the little important tag on that one. It'll end up getting moved up to the other section. So if you like the way Google organizes what is and isn't important, you can go with that option. Unread first doesn't use any algorithms at all. It basically just says, okay, everything that's unread shows up here, regardless of what kind of message it might be. And as I scroll down, I find at the bottom everything else, which I can click on, and that's going to be all of my read mail. So everything I've looked at that I didn't archive is going to show up here. If I do happen to click something and then archive it, then it's off my main screen completely. I'd have to go find it over in my mail here. I come down and I choose all mail to get to that one. But that's for archived versus not archived. But this screen right now is just read or not read. And I can hit this little arrow and just collapse that at any time if I want to get to the everything else stuff. So I don't have to scroll all the way down. I can just open that and close that. And it's letting me know I'm looking at the first 50 of 256 messages in this particular case. Now after unread, I can go to starred first. Starred looks a little bit like the important first messages with an important difference. The star stuff is not driven by any algorithms at all. The starred is completely done by you. So you choose what's important, what's not. You just star it and unstar it, and that will decide whether or not it lands on this list or everything else. So you have complete control over what is and isn't starred in that sense. Reading it or not has no bearing on this. The next one down is priority inbox, which does give you a lot more flexibility and kind of allows you to create these different sections that you can look at. So right now I've got important and unread. So all my unread plus the important stuff. So it's grouping them together into that first section. I'll collapse that for a second. This is my starred section right below it. So if I've got messages that I kind of think about stars a bit like bookmarks. If there's stuff that I'm just sort of putting my star on so I can quickly find it again later, even if it's a little bit old, maybe there's some information in there I keep going back to or I need to reply to or something, whatever my logic is, I can choose to star things. And you can see I've got 5 messages currently starred. I'll collapse that, followed by everything else. Now on the priority inbox option, that's 3 sections that I've got set up, but I can go over to customize. And on that section here, I can come down and say, all right, here's what I've got right now. Important and unread, starred, empty is number 3, because I don't have anything in there, and then the everything else. So I'm going to go to the empty for a second, and we'll see. I can add things like just the unread. I can go to more options. I can show different, these are different labels I have set up along the side. So if I just hover here for a second, these are different labels that I've got to label all my different messages. Some I do manually, some happen automatically with some filters and rules that I've set up. But it means that in the priority inbox choice here, when I'm setting up this section, I can actually decide like, okay, I want to see all of the stuff from EAD requests. If I was still doing EAD stuff, this is an old one, so we'll see if there's anything in there. Scroll it down, save the changes. It's going to reload my inbox, and now I'm going to have important and unread, starred, and all EAD requests, which looks like I cleaned that out, so there's no messages in there right now. That's fine. I can hit the 3 little dots, and I can just decide to remove that section if I wanted to. Or I can go with other stuff. So for right now, I'll just throw unread in there to keep it simple, so you can see that there is 4 sections there. I can even collapse all 4 of them if I want to. Go back to my settings, scroll on down, because there's one last option here. We don't really even need to look at this one. The multiple inboxes is sitting there. You can ignore that. That is the kind of thing that you would set up in different accounts, not work ones, but accounts where you were managing multiple email addresses and you needed all of that information later here. Below that, we've got the reading pane that you can turn on and off or have it on the right of your inbox or below your inbox. So the reading pane, I'll turn it on the right of my inbox right now and show you what that looks like. It means that I get a space here next to my list of messages. I can click on one, and then I get to read that message right here. So instead of it taking over my whole screen and then having to go back to my list of messages, I can just scroll down my list of messages here, pick another one, scroll on down, pick another one, and see what's in there. And there's definitely pros and cons. You can see even on this screen, it's sort of forcing me to scroll left and right a little bit because things don't quite fit. Part of that is because I'm zoomed in, but it will do that for sure on this view a lot of the time as well, depending on what people have sent you. And the other option was to put it at the bottom. It's called the horizontal split. So that way, I'm going to have to zoom out because that's just not fair. Reset. There you go. So now I've got this stuff up there, and I can adjust the height on this panel a little bit. But it just means that if I click something, then the message actually shows up down here. So if the width is a big problem and you really need to be able to see the full width, then you could try this option as well. I can't say I use either of them technically. I tend to leave that option completely turned off like that, so that when I actually open messages, it fills the full screen properly and I can read them that way. So that are all the different things that you can do when you're in your settings here and you scroll down and you check out the various different inbox types that are available to you. I won't say I recommend any particular one over the others. They all have their pros and cons. Priority is certainly one I've used a lot in the past. More recently, I've been using unread first as just a really clean, easy way to avoid any kind of categorization on Google's behalf. It's just a simple screen of whether I've read it or not read it, and all the organization's on me at that point. So explore your Gmail, take a look at your different inbox options, and see which of these layouts is going to help you stay the most organized.